for me, the polarizing thing can be about control. It's like, I had good intentions.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted things to turn out this way. I did all these things to make sure it turned out this way. It didn't turn out that way. It's garbage. It's like a desire to control my environment, control my experience, have my expectation met, things like that. And there's a certain point where you're like, okay, this is outside of my locus of control. And what I can control is how I react and respond in the situation. What I can't control is my thoughts and my emotions. And like focusing the energy where it's going to be best used.
Hey, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Buffet Podcast. I am your host, Brandan, joined by my beautiful partner, Ciandra. Welcome back to the Buffet Podcast, episode 94.
Woo, woo.
Wow, that's great.
Pretty soon we're going to be taking over for the 99.
99 and 100s.
Yeah. Doesn't work exactly the same,
but it works.
But it's close.
We'll make it work. We'll make it work. Now, so we took a little break, combination of vacation and getting our life together. We needed a break, so we took it. Self-care, y'all. It's important.
And the summer's a little weird anyway. I am sure that you will notice that from other content that you listen to. People be going places, doing things. And sitting down and recording isn't always the thing that you want to do in the summer, where you could be doing things and going places.
That part.
It's going to be another break. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get.
They're coming. We're going to sprinkle them in as appropriate. Maybe one day we'll get, not saying lit enough where we'll be recording on location or something like that, but today you're going to be a little bit of, you're going to do some breaks as appropriate because that is appropriate.
You're right.
All right. So it's been a couple weeks, but we're going to get right into it. Starting us off with a clip sent to us by one of our longtime, supporters, my boy Rob, you know what I'm saying?
We don't have a hand clap.
Do we have a hand clap?
I don't know.
Oh, we need to get some hand claps up in here. Yeah, there we go. And some snaps too.
Start clapping right now.
All right, we're finna get right up into it. Give us a second, get this together. I got the power today.
You do.
You find relationships to be transactional?
Yes.
Like all of them?
Everything is transactional. Breathing is a transaction.
I just hate the word transaction. A transaction means I'm bartering to me. It means that I'm only coming to you because I need something from you. Using each other.
We're a social animal.
Okay.
We need each other to survive. Parents need their children to continue the bloodline, aka to not go extinct. So there's nothing wrong with needing. There's nothing wrong with using people incorrectly. That's how you break stuff. You use a hammer to hold open a door.
Right.
You break the hammer. You use it as a fork. You break your teeth. Fundamentally, if things are truly transactional from a very clear space, everybody benefits because you're valuable to me. How are you valuable to me? Because you have value, which means you're useful, which means you're to be used. You can't say that someone's valuable to you and say you don't believe in transactions. Saying this is valuable, I want this, I need this. That's a beautiful thing. I need you because you're so valuable is romantic.
I like that explanation.
Yeah.
You find relationships.
What do you think?
I think transactional definitely gets a bad rap. I think
that's very true.
When
America made it a dirty word.
A dirty word. I think when we think about transaction, we think often, a lot of our transactions are single transactions, right? It's something that happens once or it happens infrequently, and there isn't much care or thought put into all the transactions that we have. And so I think something being transactional seems like there isn't an opportunity for there to be love and care within a transactional relationship. And because most of us are seeking love and care in our romantic relationships specifically, hearing the word transactional sounds bad.
It doesn't have a good connotation at all.
It doesn't. However, and also, I think that people recognize that there is a net benefit that happens when you're in a relationship. And so if there's benefits, those benefits come at some sort of rate of exchange, right? Like in choosing to interact, be in this relationship, I'm trading off my singleness and some of my freedom and flexibility. That in itself is a transaction. Like that in itself, and saying like, okay, I'm going to take myself off the market is a transaction. Like I think there are things that are transactional about a relationship inherently that maybe we don't necessarily consider. And then there is the idea that a relationship overall is transactional. And I think that that's the part that you would get the most pushback on. Because I don't think that every single occurrence in our relationship is transactional. But I do think that there are like certain points where transactions happen.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement. Like, excuse me. The overall, I guess, sound of transaction when it comes to the context of a relationship doesn't sound good at all. It sounds very I give you money, you make me feel good type. And I think that's what was that Mandy? I think that's what she was coming. Why she doesn't like the idea is like, like it feels very cold and like I'm providing a service. Irrespective of how I feel about it, like I'm doing a job, I'm type of situation. And even though it doesn't sound good, like to your point, it is, and there are aspects of transaction within our relationships, whether that be romantic or not. We typically don't have. Well, I usually it becomes a problem. Now I'm bringing in my my therapy stuff into it now. Like it usually becomes a problem when you are in a relationship in which there are you're not getting anything out of it but harm. That's when you're talking to me, talking about something like, yo, I need to start putting up boundaries or in things of that nature, or having to cut off people. Like all relationships are inherently like transactional in some way. It may not be money. It probably isn't money, but there is something. There is a give and take when it comes to relationships. And like you say, like there's a time investment. There's an emotional investment. There's a physical investment. There's a lot of different investments that in ways in which you pay, but you're just not using money. You're using your life. You're using you. Damn, that sounds even worse, right?
Yeah,
right. But you're using you, which I would posit is a higher commodity. Is worth more than mere money, because you can get money, you can't get time and life back.
Yeah.
So I guess with that being in mind, because these relationships can have an element of transaction, we have. Just like we should look at how we spend our money, we also should be looking at the relationships like that as well. And like, how is this transaction being, are you getting the value or the value that you see from the relationships that for what you're putting into it? Just like, if you're giving somebody $1,000, but all they doing is, giving you water from the tap, you're going to be looking at that like, yo, like what kind of tap water is this? Like, I don't know if I want to spend this kind of money. I'm giving you a whole lot for not very much or anything at all. I could do this. So yeah, I say that to say, there are elements of transaction, and because there are elements of transaction within a relationship, which is nothing wrong with that, we should be more aware of just how we're spending that commodity, which is ourselves.
You're right. There was something that came up in a James Clear email a while ago about, are you spending the majority of your time with the people who make you the happiest or something, or the people who fill your bucket the most?
Was it the Pareto? I think it was based off the Pareto principle or something like that.
That sounds right.
Okay.
It was a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, that sounds right. But this idea that like, the percentage of time that we spend with the people who make us the happiest or make us the most fulfilled needs to be greater than the percentage of time we spend with people who aren't
Right.
reinvesting in us or aren't offering us anything. So
Yeah,
it's just,
I think that's based off the Pareto principle. Is like whatever has the most impact on over an outcome. That's the thing that you need to focus your energy on.
Mm-hmm.
Like what makes you the most money. That's the thing that you need to be focusing the most of your time on doing. Who brings you the most happiness? Those are the people that you want to have in your life most often.
Yeah,
That's stuff like that. And yeah, I in thinking that. I don't know if this is related but before I go into that, we are in agreement that there is like an element. My man's was kind of right on point when it comes to like there's like a give and take within a relationship, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm. We all transacting.
We all transact.
Transactional.
I think that might be the name of the episode.
We all transacting.
We all.
I don't think transacting.
Nah, it's not. But we're gonna make it up. Nah, maybe we need to change that because
transactionalizing.
Yeah, because transacting it makes it feel like we're acting like we're trans. It's like we don't want that. We don't want that energy. We all. What is it?
It is Pride Month though. We all.
It's all a transaction.
Oh, I like that. It's all a transaction. We all buying and selling.
It's all a transaction.
Give me one margarita. That is the prime transactional relationship song. Give me one margarita. I'm going to open my legs. Give me 2 margaritas. I'm going to get you some head.
Give me 3 margaritas. Something.
Put it in my
dang. Hey, she told you what it is. Prices is on the 10.
Yeah.
Prices is right there. The sticker price.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I know we were previously we were talking about, we had like another, this is a very quick topic. We kind of skated through this one, which ain't no problem. But we were talking about another one of your topics of ruminating thoughts. Tell us more about that.
Okay. So for some context, last week I did a meditation that was about ruminating thoughts and about overthinking. And I'm sure that we've all heard someone say like, oh, I'm just an overthinker, or we know someone who feels like they're an overthinker, or you yourself may identify as a person that's an overthinker. And what you're actually doing is you're having ruminating thoughts. And what that means is that you're like obsessing, having a stream of thoughts kind of continuously pop up usually around a negative experience. But sometimes it can happen for people who are also like anxious and maybe are being faced with a challenge. So it could be just like you have to make a decision. It's like a different variation of the same thing. But typically when you're ruminating, you're having obsessive thoughts about a negative experience or a challenge and taking on a negative lens in response to that. So there are 4 different ways that people ruminate. And I wanted us to talk about ways that we personally ruminate, as well as just explore the 4 different types. So the first type is personalizing. It's when something bad occurs, you automatically blame yourself, or you always blame yourself. The second type is filtering. You magnify the negative aspects of a situation and filter out the positive. The third type is catastrophizing. You automatically assume and anticipate the worst. The fourth type is polarizing. Things are either good or bad. There is no in between. If it's not perfect, it's a failure. That's it.
Okay, what was the other 2 again? The first 2 you said?
Personalizing, filtering,
there we go,
catastrophizing, and polarizing. So I will invite you to share first. What is your personal brand of rumination?
I already know. I am a catastrophizer of significant skill.
You a black belt in catastrophizing?
I think I'm multi-level black belt.
Damn.
I'm like a 5th Dan black belt of catastrophizing. Nah, I ain't gonna say I ain't that deep. But I'm definitely a black belt. Definitely a black belt of catastrophizing. And it's kind of built in. It's built into like everything of me, like off like my thoughts. I kind of, which I've managed to, I would say, kind of use it to my advantage in the sense that I feel like it kind of helps me maintain a nonchalantness and like chillness about me, because it's like I'm everything I'm experiencing is like more than I'm expecting. So it's like, hey, I'm kind of happy right now. I'm kind of good. It's like, it's whatever. It's what's happening is not worse than what I've imagined in my head, which sounds kind of terrible. Which I understand there are issues with that. There can be problems with that. But like my catastrophizing stuff is like I always assume like the absolute worst happens. Usually it's like, for example, it could be like, hey, I hear a noise in the car. Whatever's the most expensive thing that can possibly go wrong, that's what I'm assuming is going to be. It's like, shit, this is going to be multiple thousands of dollars, and it could just be like a $50 change. But maybe that's not a good example, because cars typically usually just be costing out the ass for no reason when it's a problem. But like a lot of the scenarios, I usually go like, what's the worst possible way, or the worst thing that could happen given this situation? And then I try to reframe it and say, okay, then what's the best possible, thing that can probably come out of this, and then try to split the difference.
To manage your expectations.
Yeah, to manage my, yeah.
Do you feel like you're also a pessimist?
Yeah, I think I lean more towards the pessimism on the spectrum.
Okay, fair. So you don't feel like between optimistic and pessimistic, you're 100% pessimistic. No, I'm not. But if realist is in the center, you would be right of center. Yeah. Okay.
I actually consider myself more of a realist than anything else. But like, I'm pretty sure like I'm leaning a little bit towards like the pessimism, because even though I am a whole therapist and stuff like that, I secretly have like a distrust of humanity. Like, while I know we are capable of great, awesome things, I'm also quite vividly aware of how fucking terrible humans can also possibly be. And I know that humans generally are just selfish creatures. Not saying that's like a bad thing. It's just like we are generally like self-serving. We look out for ourselves and think people closest to us before we think about anybody else. Mm-hmm. Which I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. But because I know that, I usually err on the side of like, people are going to do things that align with them first and foremost before they think about you. Before they help you with anything, they got to make sure that they good. Mm-hmm. Which I subscribe to as well. So I'm just I feel like I'm realist enough to recognize like that to be a truth and move with that knowledge.
Okay, I support that. Mm-hmm. But this is a side note. Mm-hmm. When we talked about snitches and people snitching, you say that that's not right, that they shouldn't do that they should honor the code. And I tell you that it's because they're looking out for themselves. If it's between me and you, I'm going to choose me. So now do you see why people snitch?
I mean, I never denied like the reasons or like the motivations for why people would snitch and stuff like that. Like, and to a certain sense, I agree with it. And I'm saying that, and I say that because I'm a civilian. I can say that, like, hey, if I see something, I'm going to say something. So, but that being said, like, I also recognize that, like, you made a part of a code. Like, you signed up for this shit. And part of this way of life comes with these things, and these things say this is how we're supposed to.
I changed my mind. Why can't I change my mind?
That's not how you. So you should have change your mind before you got caught doing the thing.
Let me out, and now I'm trying to get out, and this is my way. Yeah, that's kind of a solid way to get out. Be like, oh, I snitched. No one will ever trust you again, and you'll never get caught up in any fraudulent activity because now you've been labeled as a snitch. A little tip for you guys there. I mean, you might not live. Okay, maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, you got to take what comes with that too.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. So it's like, sure, like the people on the civilian side will look at you and they might have like judgment, like, oh yeah, you broke the code, but like they not living that life. They not gonna do nothing to you. You got to worry about the people that you snitched and the people who live in that life who may believe themselves to be the arbiters of that street justice. So like you ain't gonna have no problem from the police. You ain't gonna have no problems from the regular law abiding citizen. But you might, you know what I'm saying, they might catch you at a red light, you know what I'm saying, and bing bong boom, justice, street justice. Y'all are not supposed to be doing this type of shit. But what do I know? I'm just going off of my understanding of what the streets supposed to be doing. Whether or not you snitch, I ain't got nothing to do with me. I'm just saying, like, yo, that wasn't right by the standards that you hold yourself up to. Because if it was someone else, you would have been out here. You would have been out there talking this cash shit about, hey, you snitching, like, blah, 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 rat, kill all rats, and then you want to turn around and beat them. Come on, man.
I don't know if that's true. I just believe that there's more gray area than we are allowing there to be. But this was a sidebar.
It really was.
You. Me. Yeah,
and what?
My ruminating
Yes, what's your ruminating?
Loki, after this meditation, I was like, all of them.
Yeah.
I am every single one of them. But I would say my biggest one is probably filtering. And when I think about the situation this week with the task, I was completing a task. I did not want to complete the task because I felt like it was too much work and it wasn't worthwhile. And as I'm thinking about it, all of the negative thoughts are the ones that keep coming up. Like, it's too much work. I don't even know if I'm going to get it. I don't even know if I want to do this. It's hard. I'm not ready for this. I don't have the skills for that. Those thoughts just kept like cycling through over and over again. And none of the positive thoughts of like, okay, I feel more prepared now than I felt in the past. I feel like I do have some skills that I would be able to show. I'm confident that after I complete this task and it's done, like, I'm probably going to feel better for having tried and like actually going through with it. So the positives of like, oh, this is an opportunity, it's not an obstacle, wasn't there. It was very much, this is an obstacle to my success. This thing is in my way. This task is holding me back. Not this task is an opportunity for me to show my skills. This task is an opportunity for me to reflect on my growth and like, be creative and do something. None of that was there. It was all an obstacle in my brain. And I recognize that as I like talk to you or talk to different people about it, what was the first thing that I said and how did my tone or my face kind of convey how I felt about it? And I was like, oh yeah, I'm definitely filtering. I'm seeing this is all bad. All bad.
But then now that you're on the other side of it,
I'm not all the way on the other side.
Well, like now that you're like, Pat, you've done like the majority of the work, it's easier for you to recognize like, oh, I was wilding back then.
I ain't say all that. I don't think that I was wilding, but I do recognize that having that perspective only added to the challenge.
Made it
because
harder.
The mental energy that I could have spent on completing the task, I had already spent some of it on not like on the energy that I spent of not wanting to do the task, the energy that I spent resenting the fact that the task existed. And like looking at it from that lens, all that energy had been, or a good portion of my energy had been spent on that. So when it came time to do the actual task, I felt a little afraid.
I hear that.
But my second brand would be the, what's it called?
Catastrophizing,
polarizing. Oh yeah. For me, filtering and polarizing kind of go hand in hand in the sense that like filtering is just like you focus on the negative and you clear out the positive. And polarizing is just like it's either good or it's bad. There isn't anything in between. And for me, they kind of work hand in hand. I can be very much like,
if all didn't go right, it was wrong.
It was wrong. It was garbage. It was trash. I don't like it. I don't want it. I have a lot of black and white thinking at times. And so
white.
You say?
You said black on white.
Oh. Black and white. Yeah. Call me young zebra. What sound do zebras make? Zebra.
That is a very good question.
I have no idea what sound zebras make.
So somebody go look that up, I guess.
Dang.
And put it up.
My name as a rapper, and it would be my sound.
Young zebra.
Yeah, young zebra.
And your call to action, it'll be whatever they sound it is, what it is, instead of the lighter from Wheezy.
Oh yeah.
Wow. It's like, oh shit, young zebra about to be on the track.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, since you said, damn, I was like hearing you say that the polarizing one. I was like, yeah, definitely. That's definitely you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So for me, my secondary one will probably be personalizing. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Even
What did I do?
What did I do wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Like what could I have done differently? Which I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with it inherently. Which it's being like, trying to take ownership first and foremost. Like, okay, if there was any points of failure, what were the points of failure that were within my control? I think that's what the intent behind that thought process is for me. But it can be. Sometimes it's not useful because sometimes it's not anything I could have done, or it's not my fault, or it's somebody's fault, or it's circumstances, or it's a shared responsibility, or it just shit happens type situation. And a lot of times I take on the brunt or a lot of that onto myself. I'm sure that there's several therapy sessions I can use to kind of break apart where that comes from and what that can mean and things of that nature. But at the heart of it, I think it's rooted in just my values of just like self-determinism and self-reliance of just being like, yo, if something went wrong within my life, it must mean it was a deficit on my end in some way. And I would like to identify it and figure out how that cannot be a thing in the future. And I say do that thing, but also recognize that it's only sometimes there's only so much that you personally can do with that situation. It's like, yeah, sure, you could have did this or that, but maybe that's something you could have done only in hindsight. Maybe at the time with the information that you had, that's all you had, and you made the decision with that, mm-hmm. and then turn out as well or to your satisfaction, and now you blame yourself for not having information that you didn't have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think hearing you say that makes me think about, for me, the polarizing thing can be about control. It's like I had good intentions.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted things to turn out this way. I did all these things to make sure it turned out this way. It didn't turn out that way. It's garbage. It's like a desire to control my environment, control my experience, have my expectation met, things like that. And there's a certain point where you're like, okay, this is outside of my locus of control. And what I can control is how I react and respond in the situation. What I can't control is my thoughts and my emotions. And like focusing the energy where it's going to be best used.
I get that. But I also think there's a bit of optimism within that polarizing thought. Because, I think there's like a maybe an expectation or maybe just a wish of like a fairness. Like I did everything right. I did everything I was supposed to do. Why did I not get the outcome that if I do this and this, I'm supposed to get this. And if it doesn't show up, then it must mean throw it all away. Everything was wrong because like I followed the path. I didn't get the outcome. And I think within that, there's a certain belief, a certain optimism in if I just do it right and come in with the right mentality, with the right intention, things are going to work out as they are supposed to. And as I'm sure we all know by now, in our adulthood, that's just not how it works all the time, unfortunately. And yeah.
Boo, tomato, tomato, tomato.
Right? I'm supposed to be rich. I'm supposed to have money. I went to school. Got a degree.
That's what they told you.
Yeah, I got a degree.
Two.
I got another degree.
Mm-hmm.
Got licenses and certifications. They said I'm supposed to be making $1 million more than anybody else people who didn't go to college.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they said over a lifetime, but math ain't math.
We didn't read that right. I definitely thought over a lifetime. Okay, cool. By the time I'm 30,
right? That's a lifetime, right? People that be dying at 30 every day, me. That's a lifetime. How much is a lifetime? It should have had an asterisk. A lifetime is measured over 65 to 70 years.
Yeah, y'all should have let us know the full picture.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, man, there's these are interesting. This is a interesting 4-piece to the ruminating. I don't think this is. I heard this. I mean, I've heard of each of the. Well, not. Yeah, I've heard of each of these things in isolation. But I've never heard of it in the context of like bringing it all together under like ruminating thought. Maybe I have heard of it. Maybe way back in school or something like that. But I feel so long ago. But I think that is a great exercise to kind of go through it and try to identify where you may fall within it, and what do you want to do with it.
I think sometimes just knowing what's going on is half the battle.
Yo, Joe.
And being able to call it out. Like, oh, I'm ruminating and I'm filtering. Like, once I realized that I was filtering, I was like, okay, so what are the positives? And then I like challenged myself to think about the positives. Like, okay, I'm being given an opportunity. I'm doing better this time than I did the last time. I know more this time than I knew the last time. I have done something like this in the past and gotten positive feedback on it. Like, all of those kind of things were helpful to counter the way that I was currently like having obsessive thoughts. So I think if we could talk about a counter for all of them, that might be helpful. So I'd say for the filtering, if you're only thinking about the negative, give yourself, 5-10 minutes and write down all the positive things. And I know we're talking about like tasks and things that are not directly related to a relationship, but to give you a relationship example, I saw that too. To give you a relationship example, if you have an argument or disagreement with your partner and you have filtering as the type of rumination that you do, the only thing that's going to cycle through your mind typically are negative aspects of your relationship or what that person said in the argument, right? Like, you're just going to keep thinking about like, why would they say this? Why they do this? And I don't like his breath and I don't like his upper lip.
You
and
start
like,
coming up some scenarios and it's going to piss you
all
off more.
these other things. So you need to stop yourself.
Thought stopping.
Stop it. And then help yourself reframe and look for positive things. Write those things down, maybe say those things out loud, whatever it is that will be most beneficial to you to kind of get those thoughts to help, to get new thoughts into your brain. So that way you can focus on something else. What would you say for the catastrophizing? What's the solution?
A potential, I guess, strategy for us people who catastrophize is, I mean, I can only go off of what I found to be useful for me. And I think I mentioned before of just reframing. That is the best way I could do is reframe it. So like your mind is automatically going towards the worst case scenario. That's great. Unfortunately, your mind stops there. So I encourage you to challenge your mind to continue that scenario building that you're doing by challenging by saying, then what's the positive? What's the best possible outcome of whatever situation that you're in? And typically, that can help. For me, like I say, I do the catastrophizing off top, so I ain't got to worry about that. That comes standard package. So I got to come in. So I come in and be like, what's the best way? What's the best possible outcome? And then I try to split the difference and try to figure out while the negative outcome or the positive outcome is possible. What's the probability of it? Possible and probable aren't the same thing. Damn near anything is possible, but what's the probability of it happening? I can walk across the street if I can get hit by a bus when I cross the street, but the probability of it is low because I haven't left my apartment today. So last I checked, buses ain't running through apartments. On the fourth floor. I was
going to say, especially not on the fourth floor.
So you get what I'm saying? So like
the magic school bus crashed into this hole and we died.
I'm meant to be
Miss Frizzle.
We dead.
Damn, I'm dead.
We big dead. And no one was gonna know because the magic school bus is imaginary. Yeah. So that's an exercise that I've done with some of my clients before. What's possible and probable. Just kind of think about that. Like, while the scenarios that you're coming up in your head are all probably quite possible. But what's the probability of it happening, given the information that you have available to you now, and how do you know that to be true?
How do you know?
How do we know?
Mm-hmm. Okay, for my second one, which is...
You said polarizing. You already do polarizing?
No, I did filtering.
Okay.
I think. Yeah, so polarizing. That's the one where it's either all good or it's all bad. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
And it's going to be what it's going to be. Yeah. That is the best response to, especially because typically if I'm polarizing, it's after something has happened, right? Like, it's over, Mom. Like, you can't do nothing about it now.
You can't do nothing about it.
And these thoughts and the energy that you're spending on it is not helping you. So it is what it is.
The more you think about it after the fact, the harder it's going to be able to course correct in any way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ooh,
I'm sorry, y'all. My yawns are increasing in succession, and this one eye is starting to water.
So that means, you know what I'm saying, we gotta wrap this up real quick. So I think I do my second one, which was the personalizing. Just, everything ain't about you.
It's not.
Everything isn't about you. The world doesn't revolve around you, and there are right. And you know, take accountability or what have you. If you fucked up, you fucked up. But like, recognize your what I'm looking for. Recognize like the situation and be able to tell like, okay, I had little to no control over this particular outcome. So, you know, you didn't win the lottery. That's not your fault. You played. You did everything that you could do. It's just the number randomizer shit. That's not within your control. You ain't got no control over it. You played the game. You did everything you're supposed to do. You got there on time. You know what I'm saying? You gave them the right amount of money. You picked the right game. You know, you picked your numbers from your dream and your grandmama's birthday and all that stuff like that. It's just when the numbers came out, that's not in your control. So that's, you know what I'm saying? You're not a loser.
Yeah, that's exactly right, babe. All you can control is your effort and your input. The output, the outcome.
It is what it is.
It is.
Maybe that need to be the name of the episode. It is what it is.
And you should start. I mean, we all need to do this. Me as well. You should start treating your effort as the success, not the outcome. Did I put in my maximum effort? Did I do the best that I could? That's success. I achieved.
There we go. Because you did more than what you started with. You are at a point further along than when you started, and then you can build from that. I think that's a pretty good. That's the bit. All right, y'all. I think that we did our final food for thought. Yeah. We appreciate y'all tuning in to another episode of the Buffet Podcast. We'll see y'all next week. Once again, if you haven't by now, go ahead, like and subscribe. Just do it. All right, y'all. Y'all be easy. Peace.